This basically goes two ways: delay or same fate. A lot of us are betting that Forza Horizon 6 is coming this year. However, with Forza Motorsport now finally admitting failure to the point where they want to rip apart pretty much every aspect that the game has to offer, what does this mean for Forza Horizon 6? I previously mentioned that they have a choice, a very big choice between two engines that are available for the Forza games. The older one and the new one that was built for Forza Motorsport, so FH5 versus Forza Motorsport. In reality, Horizon 6 has been in development for a while now, either path that they choose. But if we go based on them using the newer engine, they've most likely been crafting the essentials like the map and the racing system alongside Forza Motorsport's development, at least on the more recent side of it, sharing what's possible along the way to make the most efficient development time possible. This seems really viable considering the fact that FH5 has really slowed down their support in recent months. After another resurgence, they keep having resurgence with crazy amounts of content if you look from the outside, but if you look at the inside, it's ultimately more cars, which we know are going to come across to the next game anyway. But in terms of actual content, there's really one that comes to mind that keeps getting more support, which I'm really glad. I'll speak about that later. Not to say that they can't be using the older engine, but moving on makes the most sense. This is a new generational engine, a new generational leap. They thought everyone's gonna be like, oh my god, it's so pretty, so beautiful, look at the graphics. In fact, ended up being the opposite, which was a little bit odd. But hell, in this video, we're playing Forza Horizon 5 and Forza Motorsport, and a lot of the time, Horizon 5 is looking pretty dated. Like, it's pretty obvious. I think it's mostly to do with the anti-aliasing that they use. They use, like, it just looks really soft and it's not great. I'll stop the mega nerdy talk, but there's a chance they could go either way. The extra double down on features such as Event Lab is what's confused me. Anyway, that specific video I'll link at the end. But the question comes to me that Forza Motorsport really pushed this new progression system as like a focal point. I actually tried to find the video where they spoke about it and announced it. I can't find it. It's been gone for months. Anyway, they pushed this new progression system that ultimately made the game feel like it was meant to be a mobile game. Like we're pending microtransactions to make the game somewhat bearable. A whole management team thought they could get away with a system like this. They thought this was something that people wanted. You can't put a spin and say, oh, we're listening, and then do this. Not even to mention the bugs, glitches, and issues that ultimately make it feel nothing like a Forza game of past. Forza, to me, has always been the game that's quite minimal in terms of variety, but there's so much polish that you just can't argue it. It's been solid for so long. But the lack of anything new in this game, when it is in this state, is quite offensive, actually. It's almost buggier than the games that I was like, I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, okay, here's the Crew, Need for Speed 2015, they had their issues. Forza was mega polished, but those two games were adding, building new things, trying new stuff that ultimately 2015 was things we asked for years. But when there's like non-game breaking, kind of just funny glitches, you fly into the sky in the Crew, like that glitch. When that happens, I'm like, as long as the game tries something new. Now, a lot of us asked for progression. It's something obvious, especially in motorsport, that a game needs to keep you playing longer term. Now is the perfect time to do something like that because Game Pass needs your playtime / further monetization to allocate budget towards updates, new cars, and the next game. So the question is, was Forza Horizon 6 planned or planning to have a similar progression system? It's a really worthy question in that the game itself is just very different in nature. Essentially, was the series with Forza Horizon 2 onwards that threw out the rulebook and opened up the game to a lot more and more with each release. As in, they just threw stuff at you from the go. They were like, here, have it. Forza Motorsport then obviously had to follow suit to keep those players coming across because Horizon massively eclipsed Motorsport very, very quickly. And there might be a bit of bitterness between, there probably is, right? Anyway, in the past, Forza Motorsport had a really enjoyable progression system. I haven't fully played all the older games, but from what I have played, especially even Forza Horizon 1, so did Motorsport take a step to correct this and Horizon didn't, so they keep in the open crazy progression? Or did both of them make an attempt to fix this hollow feeling progression? If they both did, I don't think we'll see Forza Horizon 6 in 2024. As we mentioned, Turn 10 is going to address their issues head on. But there is a caveat here. If you read it, while they are making changes to the progression system, it seems like they want to keep the overall feel of the progression system for those that like it. Listen, I have been asking for progression on Forza for years. I do not want this crap. It is not enjoyable. It is fake. It feels like a mobile game kind of pending for me to throw money at it. And I won't, because I don't enjoy the game. The lack of drag races, the lack of drift points, the lack of any kind of fun elements just ruins it for me. I get that they're trying to be more serious and then Horizon is going to be the crazy fun one. But still, it's a game. It should have some fun elements. What happened to the Top Gear stuff where you could just knock over bloody pinball bowling crap? Why? Why is that gone? That could be, oh, well, I'm testing my driving skills. Make sure you don't hit them. Like, so anyway, while they are making changes, it seems like they're going to keep the overall feel, which worries me a hell of a lot more than not getting Forza Horizon 6 this year. Because, again, if we get it this year and it has that progression system, I would much prefer, and I'm sure the majority of people here would prefer, if they took a little bit longer, if this was the plan. For example, they've been building this for months, for years, possibly at this point, considering how long the development cycle was of the current, should I say, Forza Motorsport. If in the scenario that they've been building kind of alongside for the majority of it, so, you know, Forza Motorsport would have started for a few years, built the base, and then Horizon, of course, gets the engine, gets the updates in kind of packages. They could have been working on their map for a really long time. Hell, they could have been working on it before the engine was even a thing. They could have had the map completed for so long. Once the map is done in a racing game, ultimately all you got to do is place the routes for the races, and Bob's your uncle, there's your racing game. All the cars we know are gonna come across. But in Horizon's case, what they have to do is they really like the Eliminator, so they're probably gonna try and build the Eliminator. If we get an Eliminator before we get Event Lab, I am going to scream. But to be honest, if we go in, this is my personal opinion, and they have the map done, fleshed out, and it's better than the previous one, because the previous map was not very... Britain was crap too. We have a big, varied map. That would be nice. We have the cars return, maybe some rebuilt ones, and we have Event Lab integrated into the game from go. From go, the main screen throws this stuff at you. The main game throws this stuff at you. They hire people in the community, or they pay them to create some crazy events that you make use of this fantastic... Like, if that's what Horizon does from the go, I'm pretty happy. But the progression could absolutely ruin all that. Do you agree? So, we have a few scenarios. The maybe case in where they use the older engine, there's less time wasted building things that we've already had in the past or got currently, and we have the Event Lab return, which I will keep saying is the best thing about the series. However, it needs some fixes, please, still. And ultimately, the progression is similar to the previous installments, which I want some, albeit maybe this option sounds a bit boring overall. Another Forza Horizon, when you consider that everyone has played Forza Horizon now. It's on Game Pass. Like, everyone has Game Pass except me. I pay for my games. But another version of the same game, I don't know. Maybe Event Lab could make the difference from go. Ideal case would be a hybrid. Why are games forever throwing away work, rebuilding, instead of moving what they could move across and fixing it, making it work, adapting it, using the new engine, fix the lighting? Forza Motorsport fixes its issues over the months and months that it's got until the release of Forza Horizon. They can share the fixes in a lot of cases, because sometimes Forza Motorsport does look a hell of a lot better than Forza Horizon 5. I said sometimes, okay? But then you keep important gameplay elements like an Event Lab and a progression system somewhere in the middle. More Forza Horizons of past, you know, the wristbands that you get to then upgrade to the new types of cars, the faster cars, the cooler cars. So you feel a sense of achievement, because ultimately that's just non-existent in FH5. And then the worst case, which I don't think it would kill the franchise, but Forza Motorsport is definitely on ice right now. This would be a further stab, and I think it would make sure we don't get another Forza Motorsport, which means Horizon would be the only series to remain. Worst case, new engine, lacking in content, lacking in features, buggy, similar progression system, maybe a little bit softer because they are working on it in Motorsport, and the weird lighting, but improvements in all cases from Forza Motorsport. Just like maybe little ones, maybe big ones. It's a really tough situation. And the fact that development times are so long, obviously we know Forza Motorsport took so long to develop. I don't understand how. However, the fact they take so long is clearly showing that they haven't got people in and speaking with them. That's something that Need for Speed did from 2015, and that's something I really appreciate. They fly out main core players and some non-core players and basically get them in nice and early and say, what do you think? Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that's still the case because ultimately Need for Speed Unbound exists, but it's properly important to get feedback early. I'm working on some of my own little tiny games, and ultimately if you don't get that external feedback very early, you're going to be building what you want to build, and ultimately you're going to be building what the management wants to build. And the management, they don't play games. The management are there to bridge the gap between the studio and Microsoft, or maybe they work for Microsoft and basically fill the accounts, make it look like the game monetization wise made so much money and Microsoft are like, yes, more. The intent is actually quite nice, but we know GTA Online. It's something us gamers are really starting to understand is when you look at these mobile games, every now and again I'll jump on a mobile game and you're like, they are charging hundreds of dollars for a car. These games give them for free each month or each quarter. That in itself is wild because we're paying 60 for the game, but these mobile players in a group of 10 people, I'm sure at least half of them, are paying $150 for each pissing car and they still don't get anything for free. But my point is games are taking even longer to develop, which means they're more expensive and becoming less full of content. When you look at Forza Motorsport, I just can't believe that took them so long. That, again, ultimately it makes me kind of hope that maybe Horizon has just buffed up the older engine. Maybe. What we do know for concrete, though, is that the S15 is going to look exactly the same and awful as it normally does. Yeah.